The morning sun filtered through the tall windows of Windsor Castle as Sarah Mills, the royal archivist, carefully sorted through boxes of documents that had been stored in the castle's private quarters for decades. It was October 2022, just weeks after Queen Elizabeth II's passing, and the royal family had tasked Sarah with organizing the late monarch's personal papers before they were transferred to the official archives. Sarah had been working in the royal household for 15 years, but she had never been given access to such intimate documents before. The Queen had been notoriously private, and even her closest staff rarely saw her personal correspondence. Now, as Sarah lifted each carefully preserved letter and document, she felt the weight of history in her hands. The room where she worked had once been Queen Elizabeth's private study. Family photographs still lined the mahogany desk, and the familiar scent of the Queen's favorite lavender sachets lingered in the air. Sarah worked methodically, creating separate piles for official correspondence, family letters, and personal notes. Most of the documents were exactly what she expected to find: letters from world leaders, thank you notes from charities, and correspondence with various royal family members. It was nearly noon when Sarah reached a small wooden box tucked away in the bottom drawer of an antique writing desk. The box was different from the others she had encountered that morning. It was locked, and a small brass nameplate on top bore only the Queen's initials in elegant script. Sarah knew she needed permission before opening anything that appeared to be so deliberately secured, so she immediately called her supervisor. Within an hour, Prince William arrived at the castle with a small team of trusted advisors. The gravity of the situation was clear from their serious expressions. They had brought a locksmith, but when they examined the box more closely, they discovered a tiny key taped to the bottom. It seemed the Queen had wanted the contents to be found, but only by the right people at the right time. Prince William carefully turned the key and lifted the lid. Inside, wrapped in blue silk, were approximately 24 letters and documents. Most were written in the Queen's distinctive handwriting, while others appeared to be copies of official correspondence. At the very top of the pile was an envelope marked with a single word: Camilla. The room fell silent as Prince William carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a letter dated just 6 months before the Queen's death, written in her own hand. The letter began with words that would change everything the public thought they knew about the relationship between Queen Elizabeth II and Camilla, the woman who would become Queen Consort. "My dearest family," the letter began, "if you are reading this, then I am no longer with you, and it is time for certain truths to be known. I have carried secrets about Camilla for far too long, and I fear that history will judge both her and our family unfairly if these truths remain hidden." Prince William's hands trembled slightly as he continued reading. The Queen wrote about conversations and events that had never been made public, moments that painted an entirely different picture of the woman the press had often portrayed as the other woman in Charles and Diana's marriage. According to the Queen's account, there were crucial details about Camilla's character and her relationship with the royal family that had been deliberately kept from the public eye. The letter revealed that Camilla had actually tried to end her relationship with Charles multiple times during the 1970s and 1980s, not because she didn't love him, but because she genuinely cared about the monarchy and didn't want to cause harm to the institution. The Queen wrote about a particular conversation she had with Camilla in 1992, just months before Charles and Diana's separation became public knowledge. "Camilla came to me in tears," the Queen had written. "She begged me to help her find a way to completely disappear from Charles's life. She said she would move to another country if necessary. She never wanted to be the reason for the breakdown of his marriage, and she was tormented by the pain being caused to Diana and the children." But perhaps the most shocking revelation in the letter was the Queen's admission that she had actually encouraged Camilla to stay connected to Charles during some of the darkest periods of his marriage to Diana. The Queen wrote that she had witnessed Charles's deep depression and had feared for his mental health. She believed that Camilla's friendship and support were keeping him functional during an impossible situation. "I made decisions that I knew the public would never understand or forgive," the Queen wrote. "I chose my son's well-being over public opinion, and I would make the same choice again." Camilla never pursued Charles for personal gain or status. She loved him when he was at his lowest point, and she continued to love him even when that love brought her nothing but pain and criticism. The letter went on to describe specific instances where Camilla had demonstrated remarkable discretion and loyalty to the royal family, even when it would have been easier for her to walk away. The Queen wrote about Camilla's quiet charitable work that was never publicized, her careful attention to royal protocol, even during unofficial visits, and her genuine affection for Prince William and Prince Harry during their difficult teenage years. As Prince William finished reading the first letter, he realized this was only the beginning. The box contained what appeared to be a complete record of the Queen's true thoughts about Camilla's role in the royal family, spanning more than 3 decades. There were copies of private conversations, personal observations, and even some correspondence between the Queen and Camilla that revealed a relationship far more complex and affectionate than anyone had ever imagined. The discovery of these documents posed an immediate dilemma for the royal family. The contents directly contradicted the narrative that had dominated public discourse for decades. If released, they would vindicate Camilla in ways that might be difficult for some people to accept, particularly those who remained devoted to Diana's memory. But they would also reveal the Queen's private thoughts and potentially damage the monarchy's reputation for remaining above personal drama. Prince William carefully placed the letters back in the box and asked everyone present to sign confidentiality agreements. He knew that decisions about these documents would need to be made at the highest levels of the royal family, and he suspected that the revelations contained in his grandmother's secret correspondence would ultimately change everything about how the world viewed both Camilla and the events that had shaped the modern British monarchy. The first letter had been just the beginning, and Prince William could already sense that the full truth contained in that small wooden box would be far more complex and surprising than anyone could have anticipated. 3 days after the discovery of the secret box, Prince William convened a private meeting at Kensington Palace. Present were King Charles III, Queen Consort Camilla, and Prince Harry, who had flown in from California specifically for this unprecedented family gathering. The atmosphere in the room was tense as Prince William placed the wooden box on the conference table. King Charles looked visibly shaken as his son explained what had been found. For decades he had watched Camilla endure public criticism and knew that his mother had maintained a polite but distant relationship with her in public. The possibility that Queen Elizabeth had harbored different private feelings was both surprising and deeply moving to him. Prince William opened the box and carefully removed the second letter. This one was dated 15 years earlier and was addressed to my future successor. It became clear that Queen Elizabeth had been writing these letters over many years, documenting her evolving thoughts about Camilla, and apparently intending for them to be discovered after her death. The second letter contained revelations that were even more surprising than the first. Queen Elizabeth wrote about a secret meeting she had arranged with Camilla in 2005, shortly before Charles and Camilla's wedding. The meeting had taken place at Balmoral Castle during a weekend when no other family members were present, and no staff members except the Queen's most trusted personal secretary had been aware of it. I needed to look into Camilla's eyes and understand her true intentions, the Queen had written. What I discovered was a woman who had been carrying an enormous burden of guilt and public hatred for decades, yet who had never once complained or defended herself publicly. She had accepted the role of villain in a story where the truth was far more complicated. During that secret meeting, according to the Queen's account, Camilla had actually offered to step away from Charles even then, just months before their planned wedding. She had told the Queen that she was willing to sacrifice her own happiness if it would restore public confidence in the monarchy. The Queen wrote that she had been deeply moved by this gesture and had realized that her initial reservations about Camilla had been unfounded. I told her that day that she had already proven herself worthy of joining our family, the Queen wrote, not because of her social status or her ability to fulfill royal duties, but because of her character. She had endured years of hatred and criticism without ever retaliating or revealing private details that could have damaged Charles or our family. The letter went on to describe specific conversations between the Queen and Camilla during private family gatherings over the years. Contrary to media reports that suggested a cold relationship, the Queen wrote about shared moments of laughter, discussions about grandchildren, and Camilla's genuine interest in the history and traditions of the monarchy. One particularly touching passage described Christmas dinner at Sandringham in 2018. The Queen wrote about watching Camilla interact with the younger members of the royal family, particularly Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. She has a natural way with children, the Queen observed. She doesn't try to replace anyone or claim a role that isn't hers. She simply offers love and support where it's needed. But the most shocking revelation in the second letter was the Queen's admission that she had been secretly consulting with Camilla on various royal matters for years. The Queen wrote that Camilla had excellent judgment about public relations and had quietly helped navigate several potential scandals that never became public knowledge. Camilla understands the modern world in ways that sometimes escape those of us who have been in the royal bubble for our entire lives, the Queen wrote. She has helped me understand how ordinary people think and feel about various issues. Her advice has been invaluable, though she has never sought credit for it. As King Charles listened to his son read these words, tears formed in his eyes. He had never known about these secret consultations between his mother and his wife. Camilla looked equally surprised and emotional as she learned about the Queen's private thoughts and the depth of respect that had apparently developed between them. The letter also contained the Queen's reflections on media coverage of Camilla over the years. She wrote with unusual bluntness about her frustration with press narratives that she felt were unfair and inaccurate. The press created a story that was easier to understand than the truth, she wrote. Good woman, bad woman, victim, villain, these simple categories allowed people to choose sides without grappling with the complexity of real human relationships. Queen Elizabeth acknowledged in the letter that she had been partly responsible for the public's perception of Camilla by maintaining such a carefully neutral public stance. I thought I was protecting the monarchy by staying above the fray, she wrote. But I now realize that my silence allowed others to define Camilla unfairly. The letter concluded with specific instructions for the royal family about how to handle these revelations. The Queen wrote that she hoped the letters would be made public eventually, but only when the family felt the timing was appropriate. She emphasized that her primary concern was ensuring that history would record the truth about Camilla's character and contributions to the royal family. Camilla has earned the right to be judged on her actual words and actions, not on speculation and prejudice, the Queen wrote. She has served our family and our country with dignity and devotion, often under extremely difficult circumstances. Future generations deserve to know this truth. As Prince William finished reading the second letter, the room remained silent for several minutes. Each family member was processing not only the specific revelations about the Queen's relationship with Camilla, but also the broader implications of these secrets having been kept for so many years. King Charles finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. Mother never told me she felt this way, he said. All these years I thought she was merely tolerating Camilla for my sake. I had no idea she had developed such genuine respect and affection for her. Camilla, who had remained quiet throughout the reading, finally responded. I always sensed that Her Majesty's feelings toward me had evolved over time, she said. But I never imagined she was keeping such detailed records of her thoughts. This is both overwhelming and deeply touching. The family realized they were only beginning to understand the full scope of what the Queen had documented in her secret letters. There were still more than 20 documents in the box, and each one potentially contained revelations that could reshape public understanding of one of the most scrutinized relationships in modern royal history. The third letter in Queen Elizabeth's secret collection was perhaps the most personal and revealing yet. Dated just 2 years after Diana's death in 1997, it showed the Queen grappling with intense public grief and anger while trying to understand her own complex feelings about the tragedy and its aftermath. Prince William hesitated before opening this letter, knowing that it would likely contain his grandmother, his private thoughts about his mother's death and the role that Charles and Camilla's relationship had played in the events leading up to that terrible night in Paris. The weight of family history pressed heavily on everyone in the room as he carefully unfolded the handwritten pages. The nation is in mourning, the Queen had written, and I find myself facing the most difficult period of my reign. Diana's death has unleashed emotions that threaten to tear apart everything I have spent my life building. The anger directed toward Charles and Camilla is understandable, but not entirely fair, and I fear that the full truth may never be known. The letter revealed that in the weeks following Diana's funeral, Queen Elizabeth had conducted her own private investigation into the events and relationships that had led to the breakdown of Charles and Diana's marriage. She had spoken separately with several people who had been close to both Charles and Diana during their marriage, gathering information that had never been shared publicly. What I discovered, the Queen wrote, was a story far more complicated than the simple narrative of betrayal that has captured the public imagination. Both Charles and Diana made mistakes and both suffered greatly, but the portrayal of Camilla as a calculating woman who deliberately destroyed a fairy tale marriage is simply not accurate. The Queen went on to detail specific information she had gathered about the timeline of Charles and Camilla's relationship. According to her private investigation, Charles and Camilla had actually ended their romantic relationship completely when Charles married Diana in 1981, and they had not resumed it until 1986, by which time the marriage was already in serious trouble for reasons that had nothing to do with Camilla. Diana herself told me in 1985 that she felt Charles was incapable of loving her the way she needed to be loved, the Queen wrote. She said this a full year before Charles renewed contact with Camilla. The problems in their marriage ran much deeper than the presence of another woman. The letter contained the Queen's account of a particularly painful conversation she had with Diana just months before her death. Diana had apparently expressed regret about some of the public statements she had made about Charles and Camilla, admitting that anger and hurt had led her to oversimplify a very complex situation. Diana told me that she had come to understand that Charles had never stopped loving Camilla, even during their marriage, the Queen wrote. She said she had accepted this reality and had found her own path to happiness. She expressed concern that her previous public statements about Camilla might be used to justify ongoing hatred and persecution after her death. This revelation was particularly shocking to Prince William and Prince Harry, who had never heard anything about their mother expressing such thoughts. The Queen's letter suggested that Diana had evolved in her understanding of the situation during her final years, moving toward a more nuanced view of the relationships involved. The letter also contained the Queen's reflections on Camilla's behavior during the difficult period following Diana's death. While the public and press were calling for Camilla to disappear entirely from royal circles, the Queen noted that Camilla had actually tried to do exactly that, voluntarily withdrawing from public view and even considering moving abroad permanently. Camilla came to me 3 months after Diana's funeral, the Queen wrote, and begged me to allow her to leave England entirely. She said she could not bear the thought that her presence was causing continued pain to Diana's sons or damage to the monarchy. She was prepared to sacrifice her relationship with Charles for the greater good. The Queen's letter revealed that she had been the one to convince Camilla to stay, not because she approved of the relationship at that time, but because she had witnessed Charles's complete emotional collapse following Diana's death and his separation from Camilla. Charles was not functioning, the Queen wrote bluntly. He was consumed by grief and guilt, and I feared for his mental health and his ability to continue his royal duties. The letter described a secret arrangement the Queen had made during this period, allowing Charles and Camilla to maintain contact while keeping their relationship completely private for several years. The Queen had essentially provided cover for them to heal and rebuild, while the public grief over Diana's death gradually subsided. Made a choice that I knew history might judge harshly, the Queen wrote. I chose to prioritize my son's survival over public opinion. But I also came to realize during this period that Camilla was not the selfish woman I had once believed her to be. Her willingness to sacrifice her own happiness for the sake of others showed me a side of her character that I had previously overlooked. The letter included detailed observations about how Camilla had handled the intense scrutiny and hatred directed toward her during this period. The Queen noted that Camilla had never once responded publicly to criticism, never defended herself in the media, and never revealed private information that could have damaged Charles or the royal family, even when doing so might have improved her own public image. She endured years of being portrayed as a villain with remarkable grace, the Queen wrote. I began to understand that someone truly motivated by selfish ambition would have handled this situation very differently. A calculating person would have found ways to defend themselves or would have walked away entirely when the cost became too high. The letter also contained the Queen's admission that she had begun to see parallels between Camilla's situation and her own experiences earlier in her reign. "I remembered my own struggles with public opinion during difficult periods," she wrote. "I began to understand that Camilla was facing the same challenge that every member of our family faces, learning to serve the institution while remaining true to one's own heart." As Prince William finished reading this letter, the emotional impact on the family was visible. Prince Harry, in particular, seemed deeply affected by the revelations about his mother's evolving thoughts and the Queen's perspective on the events surrounding her death. The letter concluded with the Queen's reflection that the public narrative about Diana, Charles, and Camilla had become a tragedy of misunderstanding that has caused unnecessary pain to everyone involved, including the British people who deserve to know the whole truth. King Charles spoke quietly after a long silence. "I never knew Mother had conducted her own investigation into those events," he said, "and I certainly didn't know that Diana had expressed any regret about her public statements. This changes so much about how I understand that entire period of our lives." The family was beginning to realize that Queen Elizabeth's secret letters were not just revealing her private thoughts about Camilla, but were also providing a completely different perspective on some of the most painful and controversial events in modern royal history. The fourth letter discovered in Queen Elizabeth's secret collection was dated 2010 and marked a significant turning point in the Queen's documented relationship with Camilla. By this time, Charles and Camilla had been married for 5 years, and the Queen's observations showed a woman who had exceeded all expectations in her royal role. Prince William opened this letter with growing anticipation. As the previous revelations had already challenged everything the family thought they knew about the Queen's private feelings. This letter began with a tone of genuine admiration that would have shocked the British public had they known of its existence. "I owe Camilla an apology," the Queen had written. "Not a public one, for that would serve no useful purpose, but a personal acknowledgement that I misjudged her character and capabilities for far too long. She has proven herself to be exactly the kind of person our family and our institution needed, though I was too blinded by prejudice and tradition to see it initially." The letter detailed specific examples of Camilla's contributions to royal duties that had impressed the Queen. Unlike many royal spouses who required extensive preparation and guidance, Camilla had demonstrated a natural understanding of royal protocol and public service that surprised everyone around her. During the flooding crisis in Gloucestershire last year, the Queen wrote, Camilla insisted on visiting affected areas despite security concerns. She spent hours talking with families who had lost their homes, and I watched her comfort children and elderly residents with genuine warmth and compassion. There were no cameras present for most of these interactions. She was simply doing what felt right to her. The Queen's letter revealed that she had begun secretly consulting with Camilla on various royal matters, finding her insights particularly valuable when dealing with public relations challenges. Camilla's background outside the royal bubble gave her a perspective that the Queen found increasingly useful as she navigated changing public expectations. Camilla understands how ordinary people think and feel in ways that those of us born into royalty sometimes struggle with, the Queen observed. When we faced criticism over royal spending during the economic recession, it was Camilla who suggested practical ways to demonstrate our understanding of the public's concerns. Her advice proved invaluable. The letter also contained detailed observations about Camilla's relationship with other family members, particularly Prince William and Prince Harry. The Queen noted that Camilla had navigated the delicate situation of becoming their stepmother with remarkable sensitivity, never trying to replace their mother's memory while still offering genuine support and affection. I have watched Camilla with William and Harry over the years, the Queen wrote, and I have been consistently impressed by her approach. She has never demanded their love or loyalty, but has simply made herself available when they needed her. During Harry's troubled period in his early 20s, it was often Camilla who helped Charles understand how to support his son. The Queen's letter revealed specific instances where Camilla had quietly intervened to help resolve family conflicts or support family members during difficult times. She described how Camilla had helped facilitate private conversations between Charles and his sons during tense periods, serving as a bridge when direct communication became difficult. Camilla has an extraordinary ability to diffuse tension and find common ground, the Queen wrote. She has prevented several family conflicts from escalating into public embarrassments, though she has never sought credit for this role. She seems to understand instinctively that her greatest contribution is often her quiet presence rather than her words. The letter also contained the Queen's observations about Camilla's charitable work, which had expanded significantly during her first years as Duchess of Cornwall. The Queen noted that Camilla had chosen causes that reflected genuine personal interests rather than traditional royal patronages, bringing authentic passion to her public service. Camilla's work with literacy programs has been particularly impressive, the Queen wrote. She doesn't simply attend ceremonial events, she has developed genuine expertise in the field and has contributed meaningfully to policy discussions. Her background as a grandmother gives her credibility when she speaks about the importance of reading to children. Perhaps most significantly, the letter revealed the Queen's growing respect for how Camilla had handled her unique position as the second wife of the heir to the throne. The Queen acknowledged that this was an unprecedented situation in modern royal history, with no clear precedent for how to balance respect for Diana's memory with Camilla's legitimate role as Charles's wife. Camilla has created her own path through an impossible situation, the Queen wrote. She has never competed with Diana's memory or tried to claim a role that wasn't hers. Instead, she has found ways to support Charles and serve the institution while maintaining appropriate boundaries. This required wisdom and self-discipline that I'm not sure I fully appreciated at the time. The Queen's letter also contained frank assessments of public opinion and media coverage of Camilla during this period. She expressed frustration with what she saw as persistent unfairness in how Camilla was portrayed, noting that positive stories about her work were often ignored while minor missteps were magnified. The press seems determined to maintain a narrative that no longer reflects reality, the Queen wrote. Camilla has proven herself repeatedly, yet every public appearance is still analyzed through the lens of old controversies. This does a disservice not only to her, but to the institution she serves and the causes she supports. The letter revealed that the Queen had actually considered taking more public steps to demonstrate her support for Camilla during this period, but had ultimately decided that such gestures might backfire by drawing more attention to past controversies. Instead, she had chosen to show her support through private actions and increased responsibilities for Camilla within the royal household. I have learned that sometimes the most powerful endorsement is simply treating someone as a valued member of the family, the Queen wrote. By including Camilla more fully in family events and royal duties, I hope to demonstrate my confidence in her without making dramatic gestures that might be misinterpreted. The letter concluded with the Queen's reflection on how her own views had evolved over the decades since Charles and Camilla's marriage. She acknowledged that her initial resistance had been based partly on concern for the institution's reputation, but also on personal prejudices that she had needed to confront and overcome. I have learned that true loyalty to the monarchy sometimes requires setting aside personal preferences and traditional expectations, the Queen wrote. Camilla has earned her place in our family not through birthright or political arrangement, but through her character and her commitment to service. This is perhaps a more solid foundation than some marriages in our family's history have enjoyed. As Prince William finished reading this letter, the transformation in the Queen's attitude toward Camilla was unmistakable. The formal tolerance of the early years had evolved into genuine respect and affection, based on years of observation and personal interaction. Camilla, who had remained composed throughout the previous readings, finally showed visible emotion as she heard these private expressions of approval from the woman whose opinion had mattered more than any other. I had no idea Her Majesty felt this way, she said softly. I always sensed that our relationship had improved over time, but I never imagined she was keeping such detailed records of her observations. The family was beginning to understand that the Queen's secret letters were documenting not just her changing opinion of Camilla, but also her own growth and evolution as a person and as a monarch during the final decades of her reign. The fifth letter in Queen Elizabeth's collection was dated 2018 and revealed the most intimate and personal aspects of her relationship with Camilla. By this time, the two women had developed what the Queen described as a genuine friendship, built on mutual respect and shared experiences of navigating royal life. As Prince William opened this letter, he noticed that the Queen's handwriting appeared more relaxed and flowing than in previous documents, suggesting a comfort and ease that hadn't existed in earlier years. The content of the letter would prove to be equally revealing about the depth of understanding that had developed between the two women. Today, Camilla and I spent the afternoon together at Balmoral. Just the two of us, the Queen had written. It struck me how natural and comfortable our conversations have become. We talked about everything from grandchildren to the challenges of modern royal life, and I found myself sharing thoughts and concerns that I rarely discuss with anyone. The letter described how Camilla had become one of the Queen's most trusted confidants during the later years of her reign. The Queen wrote about seeking Camilla's advice on family matters, particularly when dealing with the younger generation's approach to royal duties and their relationship with the media. Camilla has helped me understand how the world has changed since I was young, the Queen wrote. She explains social media and modern communication in ways that make sense to me, and she helps me see how traditional royal approaches might need to evolve. Her perspective as someone who came to royal life as an adult has been invaluable. The letter revealed specific conversations where Camilla had helped the Queen navigate particularly sensitive family situations. During Prince Harry's struggles with media attention and his eventual relationship with Meghan Markle, the Queen noted that Camilla had provided crucial insights into how to support Harry while maintaining family unity. When Harry was going through his most difficult period with the press, the Queen wrote, it was Camilla who suggested that we needed to understand his perspective, rather than simply trying to control his behavior. She reminded me that he had never had the chance to process his mother's death properly, and that his anger toward the media was understandable and justified. The Queen's letter also contained touching details about how Camilla had helped her deal with the inevitable challenges of aging and the gradual transition of responsibilities to the next generation. The Queen wrote about feeling increasingly isolated as longtime friends and advisors passed away, and how Camilla had become an important source of companionship and understanding. Growing old in the public eye presents unique challenges, the Queen observed. Camilla understands this in ways that few people can. She has watched me struggle with physical limitations while maintaining the dignity that my position requires, and she has offered support without ever making me feel diminished or pitied. The letter revealed that Camilla had taken on an informal role as the Queen's confidant regarding family dynamics, helping her understand and respond to the changing needs and expectations of different family members. The Queen particularly valued Camilla's insights into Charles's personality and motivations. Camilla knows Charles better than anyone, the Queen wrote, and she has helped me understand aspects of his character that I had missed or misinterpreted over the years. Through her eyes, I have come to appreciate his sensitivity and his deep commitment to causes he believes in, even when his approach differs from traditional royal methods. The letter also contained the Queen's reflections on how Camilla had handled the unique challenge of being married to the heir to the throne, while not being the mother of the future king. The Queen noted that this position required extraordinary diplomatic skills and emotional intelligence. Camilla has managed to support Charles's role as heir while respecting William's position as the future king, the Queen wrote. She has never tried to insert herself into the line of succession or claim a role that isn't hers. Instead, she has found ways to be helpful and supportive without overstepping boundaries. This requires a level of self-awareness and restraint that I deeply admire. The Queen's letter revealed that she had come to view Camilla as essential to Charles's ability to function effectively as king. She wrote about observing how Camilla's presence calmed Charles during stressful situations and how her practical advice helped him make better decisions. Charles is a better man and will be a better king because of Camilla's influence, the Queen wrote without hesitation. She has helped him find confidence in his own judgment, while also teaching him to listen more carefully to others. The monarchy will be stronger because of their partnership. Perhaps most personally, the letter contained the Queen's admission that she had come to think of Camilla not just as Charles's wife, or as a member of the royal family, but as a true friend. She wrote about looking forward to their private conversations and feeling genuinely comfortable in Camilla's presence. I realize now that what I feel for Camilla is actual affection, the Queen wrote. Not just respect or appreciation for her service, but genuine fondness for her as a person. She makes me laugh, she listens without judgment, and she has become someone I can trust completely. At my age, such friendships are rare and precious. The letter also revealed the Queen's thoughts about public perception of Camilla and her hopes for how history would ultimately judge her daughter-in-law. The Queen expressed frustration that Camilla's contributions were still overshadowed by old controversies and media narratives. I hope that someday the public will see Camilla as I have come to see her, the Queen wrote, not as a character in someone else's story, but as a remarkable woman who has made significant contributions to our family and our institution. She deserves to be remembered for her own achievements and character, not just as a footnote to past dramas. The Queen's letter concluded with her reflection on how Camilla had changed not just the royal family's dynamics, but also her own understanding of what it meant to serve the monarchy. She wrote about learning from Camilla's example that royal service could be both deeply traditional and refreshingly modern. Camilla has shown me that it's possible to honor tradition while also adapting to changing times, the Queen wrote. She respects the institution's history while also bringing new energy and perspectives to royal duties. This balance is exactly what the monarchy needs as it moves into the future. As Prince William finished reading this deeply personal letter, the room fell silent. The transformation in the Queen's relationship with Camilla was complete, from reluctant acceptance to genuine friendship and admiration. The letter revealed not just the Queen's changed opinion of Camilla, but also how Camilla had enriched the Queen's own life during her final years. King Charles was visibly moved by these revelations about his mother's private feelings. I knew they had grown closer over the years, he said quietly, but I had no idea that Mother valued Camilla's friendship so deeply or relied on her advice so extensively. Camilla herself seemed overwhelmed by the warmth and affection expressed in the Queen's private words. Her Majesty gave me so much more than I ever gave her, she said. To know that she thought of me as a friend, not just as a duty or obligation, means more to me than I can express. The family was beginning to understand that these letters represented not just a hidden history of the Queen's relationship with Camilla, but also a testament to the power of time, understanding, and genuine human connection to overcome initial prejudices and transform relationships in profound ways. The sixth letter in Queen Elizabeth's secret collection was the most recent, dated just 4 months before her death in September 2022. This final substantial letter served as both a summary of her transformed relationship with Camilla and a set of instructions for how the royal family should handle these revelations after her passing. Prince William's hands trembled slightly as he opened this letter, knowing that it contained his grandmother's final thoughts on one of the most controversial relationships in modern royal history. The letter began with words that would have shocked the world had they been made public during the Queen's lifetime. As I write this, I am acutely aware that my time is drawing to a close, the Queen had begun. I feel compelled to record my final thoughts about Camilla, who has become one of the most important people in my life, and who I believe will be crucial to the monarchy's future success. If these letters are discovered after my death, I hope they will help set the record straight about a woman who has been profoundly misunderstood. The letter revealed that during the final years of her life, the Queen had come to view Camilla not just as a valuable family member, but as someone whose approach to royal duty represented the future of the monarchy. She wrote about observing how Camilla connected with people during public engagements and how her natural warmth translated into genuine public service. Yesterday I watched Camilla at a children's literacy event, the Queen wrote. She wasn't simply fulfilling an obligation, she was genuinely engaged with every child, every teacher, every parent she met. Her passion for education and reading is authentic, and people respond to that authenticity. This is what royal service should look like in the modern world. The Queen's letter contained detailed observations about how Camilla had prepared for her eventual role as Queen Consort, taking on increasing responsibilities while maintaining the humility and grace that had come to characterize her approach to royal life. The Queen noted that Camilla had sought her advice frequently and had always been willing to learn and adapt. Camilla has asked me countless questions over the years about royal protocol, about managing public expectations, about balancing personal desires with institutional needs, the Queen wrote. But more importantly, she has learned to trust her own instincts while respecting the wisdom of tradition. This balance will serve her well as queen consort. The letter revealed the queen's private thoughts about the decision to grant Camilla the title of queen consort rather than princess consort, a decision that had been announced earlier in 2022. The queen wrote that this choice had been based entirely on Camilla's proven merit and service, not on any obligation or pressure. When I announced that Camilla would become queen consort, I was not simply accepting the inevitable, the queen wrote. I was acknowledging that she had earned this title through 15 years of devoted service and personal growth. She has proven herself worthy of the role in every possible way. The Queen's letter also contained her assessment of how Camilla would handle the unique challenges of being married to the king while not being the mother of the heir. She expressed confidence that Camilla's diplomatic skills and emotional intelligence would help her navigate this complex position successfully. Camilla understands that her role as queen consort will be to support Charles while respecting William's position as heir, the queen wrote. She has already demonstrated this balance beautifully during Charles's time as heir. I have no doubt that she will continue to handle these delicate dynamics with wisdom and grace. Perhaps most significantly, the letter contained the queen's instructions for how these secret documents should be handled after her death. She had clearly given considerable thought to the timing and manner of any potential revelations about her true feelings regarding Camilla. I hope that these letters will eventually be made public, but only when the family believes the time is right, the queen wrote. The truth about Camilla's character and contributions deserves to be known, but I understand that revealing these thoughts too quickly might cause more harm than good. Use your judgment about when the world is ready to hear a different story. The queen went on to express her specific hopes for how Camilla would be remembered by history. She wrote about wanting future generations to understand that Camilla had faced extraordinary challenges with remarkable dignity and had ultimately made the monarchy stronger through her service. I want history to record that Camilla transformed from someone I viewed with suspicion into someone I consider family in the truest sense, the queen wrote. This transformation was not the result of political calculation or public pressure, but of genuine observation of her character over many years. She earned my respect and affection through her actions, not her position. The letter also contained the Queen's reflections on how Camilla's presence had affected Charles's effectiveness as heir and would influence his success as king. The Queen wrote with unusual directness about her son's strengths and weaknesses and how Camilla's partnership complemented his personality. Charles has always been a man of strong convictions and deep feelings, the Queen observed. These qualities are both his greatest assets and his potential weaknesses as king. Camilla helps him channel his passion constructively, while also providing the emotional stability he needs to handle the pressures of kingship. The Queen's letter revealed that she had specifically asked Camilla to continue certain traditions and approaches that had been important during her own reign. She had entrusted Camilla with maintaining particular aspects of royal protocol, while also encouraging her to innovate where appropriate. I have asked Camilla to serve as a bridge between my approach to monarchy and the changes that will inevitably come, the Queen wrote. She understands the importance of continuity, while also recognizing the need for evolution. This perspective will be invaluable as the institution adapts to changing times. The letter concluded with the Queen's most personal statement about Camilla and her hopes for the future of their relationship beyond death. She wrote about wanting Camilla to know how much their friendship had meant to her, and how grateful she was for Camilla's positive influence on the royal family. If Camilla ever reads this letter, I want her to know that she brought joy and wisdom to my final years, the Queen wrote. She helped me understand that it's never too late to change one's mind about someone, and that genuine friendship can develop even under the most unlikely circumstances. She has been a gift to our family and to the monarchy. The Queen ended the letter with a direct message to Camilla. You have exceeded every expectation and overcome every obstacle with grace. You have earned your place not just in our family, but in the history of the British monarchy. Rule with confidence, serve with compassion, and know that you have my complete blessing and eternal gratitude. As Prince William finished reading these final, deeply personal words from his grandmother, the emotional impact on the entire family was overwhelming. The Queen's journey from skepticism to genuine love and admiration for Camilla was complete. documented in her own words across more than 2 decades. King Charles was openly emotional as he processed his mother's final assessment of his wife and their marriage. "She never told me she felt this way," he said through tears. "To know that Mother not only accepted Camilla but truly loved her, this changes everything about how I understand the last years of her life." Camilla, who had maintained her composure throughout most of the readings, finally broke down as she heard the Queen's final message to her. The validation and affection expressed in these private words represented a healing of wounds she had carried for decades. The family now faced the momentous decision of what to do with these revelations that had the power to reshape public understanding of one of the most scrutinized relationships in royal history. 6 months after the discovery of Queen Elizabeth's secret letters, the royal family faced one of the most difficult decisions in modern royal history. The revelations contained in those private documents had the power to completely reshape public understanding of Camilla's role in the royal family. But they also posed significant risks to the monarchy's carefully maintained image of stability and continuity. Prince William, now the heir to the throne, had spent countless hours discussing the implications with his father, stepmother, and closest advisors. The weight of his grandmother's final wishes pressed heavily on his shoulders as he grappled with questions that had no clear answers. Should they honor the Queen's desire for truth by releasing the letters, or would doing so create more problems than it solved? The internal debates were intense and emotional. King Charles felt torn between his desire to vindicate his wife publicly and his concern about opening old wounds that had finally begun to heal. He had watched Camilla endure decades of criticism based on incomplete information, and part of him desperately wanted the world to know how his mother had truly felt about her. "These letters prove what I've known all along," Charles argued during one family meeting. "Camilla has been unfairly maligned for years. The public deserves to know the truth about her character and her contributions to our family." But Prince William and his advisors were more cautious. They worried that releasing the letters might seem like a desperate attempt to rewrite history, and could potentially damage the monarchy's reputation for remaining above personal drama. There was also concern about how the revelations might affect public memory of Diana and whether it was appropriate to release such personal thoughts without the Queen's explicit consent for publication. "Grandmother said to use our judgment about timing," Prince William reminded the family. "Perhaps the world isn't ready for this level of detail about family relationships and past controversies. We need to consider whether releasing these letters would strengthen or weaken the monarchy." Camilla herself was conflicted about the discovery of the letters. While she was deeply moved by the Queen's private expressions of affection and respect, she worried that making them public might appear self-serving. She had spent years avoiding public disputes and had no desire to reignite old controversies, even if it might improve her public image. "I've learned to live with public opinion as it is," Camilla told the family during one discussion. "Perhaps it's better to let sleeping dogs lie, rather than risk creating new divisions or appearing to attack Diana's memory posthumously." But as the months passed, developments in the media and public discourse began to influence the family's thinking. Several unauthorized biographies and documentaries about royal relationships had been published or announced, some containing speculation and inaccuracies that troubled the family. The existence of the Queen's letters offered a unique opportunity to set the record straight with authoritative, first-hand documentation. The decision was ultimately made after careful consultation with constitutional experts, media advisors, and religious leaders. The family decided to release selected portions of the letters gradually, beginning with the least controversial revelations and building toward the more personal material over time. This approach would allow public opinion to adjust gradually, while ensuring that the Queen's desire for truth was ultimately honored. The first excerpts were released on the first anniversary of Queen Elizabeth's death, as part of a documentary about her final years. The initial revelations focused on the Queen's observations about Camilla's charitable work and her contributions to royal duties, avoiding the more personal or controversial material about Diana's death and family relationships. The public response was immediate and intense. Supporters of Camilla felt vindicated by the Queen's private endorsement of her character and service. Critics questioned the timing and authenticity of the revelations, suggesting that the royal family was trying to manipulate public opinion. Media coverage was extensive, with royal experts and commentators debating the implications for days. These letters reveal a side of the Queen's thinking that we never saw publicly, noted one royal historian. They show her capacity for growth and change, and they provide insight into how she really viewed one of the most controversial relationships in royal history. But the response wasn't uniformly positive. Some supporters of Diana's memory felt that the revelations were an attempt to diminish her legacy or excuse the behavior that had hurt her. There were also questions about whether it was appropriate to release such personal thoughts without the Queen's explicit permission for publication. As additional excerpts were released over the following months, public opinion began to shift gradually. The detailed documentation of Camilla's character and the Queen's evolving perspective provided a more nuanced understanding of the relationships involved. Many people who had maintained negative opinions about Camilla found themselves reconsidering their views in light of the Queen's private endorsement. The most personal revelations, including the Queen's account of Diana's final thoughts about Charles and Camilla, were saved for last and released only after extensive consultation with Prince William and Prince Harry. These final disclosures were the most controversial but also the most healing, providing a more complete picture of how all the parties involved had grown and changed over time. Prince Harry, who had initially been skeptical about releasing his grandmother's private thoughts, ultimately supported the decision after seeing how the revelations helped people understand the complexity of the situation. These letters show that even the people closest to these events had to work through their own prejudices and assumptions, he said in a rare public statement. Perhaps that's a lesson we all can learn from. The long-term impact of the Queen's secret letters extended far beyond their immediate effect on public opinion about Camilla. They provided unprecedented insight into how the monarchy actually functions behind closed doors, showing the human struggles and growth that occur within the royal family, despite their public image of unchanging stability. For Camilla herself, the revelations were both vindication and burden. While she was grateful that her character had been documented so positively by the Queen, she also felt the weight of living up to such high praise. The letters had essentially committed her to continuing the approach that had earned the Queen's admiration, maintaining the balance between tradition and innovation that had characterized her service. I feel a tremendous responsibility to honor the faith that Her Majesty placed in me, Camilla said in her first public comments about the letters. She saw potential in me that I sometimes doubted myself, and she helped me become the person I am today. I hope to continue earning that trust as Queen Consort. The discovery and eventual release of Queen Elizabeth's secret letters marked a turning point in public understanding of the modern royal family. They demonstrated that even the most traditional institutions could evolve and grow, and that personal relationships within the monarchy were far more complex and human than public narratives usually suggested. As historians began to analyze the full implications of the letters, many concluded that they represented one of the most honest and intimate glimpses into royal family dynamics ever documented. They showed Queen Elizabeth not as a distant figurehead, but as a grandmother and mother-in-law who struggled with family relationships just like anyone else, and who was capable of changing her mind when presented with evidence that challenged her initial assumptions. The letters ensured that Camilla's legacy would be defined not just by the controversies of her early relationship with Charles, but by the character and service that had ultimately won over even her harshest critic within the royal family. Queen Elizabeth's final gift to Camilla was perhaps the most valuable thing she could have provided: the truth about her transformation from reluctant acceptance to genuine love and admiration, documented in the Queen's own words for history to remember.